quiet, fog-laced coastal town called Breakwater Bay, known for its long history of shipwrecks and eerie pirate folklore. Among its residents is Aisha, a bright and inquisitive 16-year-old girl who lives with her widowed mother and helps out in their family-run antique store. Aisha has always been fascinated by history and legends, particularly the tale of a ship called the Indigo Vulture, rumored to have sunk centuries ago carrying a stash of gold beads once belonging to an indigenous tribe that vanished mysteriously. One afternoon, while sorting through her late grandfather's belongings in the attic, Aisha discovers a brittle leather pouch filled with strange, shimmering gold beads, each etched with symbols. Alongside it is a crumbling, partially burned map marked with cryptic locations around Breakwater Bay. Curious and thrilled, Aisha begins to connect the beads and the map to the legend of the Indigo Vulture. She suspects her grandfather, once a fisherman, may have been closer to the truth than anyone ever knew. Determined to learn more, Aisha visits the local library and museum, digging through dusty records. She comes across the name Griffin Shore, a former treasure hunter who, in the 1980s, was notorious for searching the coastline for the legendary beads. However, after a mysterious incident during one of his expeditions, he vanished from the public eye and now lives as a recluse on the edge of town. Despite warnings from locals, Aisha musters the courage to visit Griffin. Initially gruff and dismissive, Griffin softens when he sees the beads and the map, recognizing them instantly. He reveals that decades ago, he found a similar bead during a dive near the cliffs but kept it secret after one of his partners disappeared mysteriously. He believed the treasure was cursed or protected. Still, he never stopped wondering. Seeing Aisha's determination reignites a spark in him. He agrees to help her decode the map, but warns her it won't be easy. Many people have tried and failed, and some vanished. Meanwhile, two new arrivals show up in Breakwater Bay, Lenny and Brody, flashy young metal detectorists and social media influencers. Armed with expensive gear and a thirst for viral fame, they claim to be making a documentary about real treasure hunting. They catch wind of Aisha and Griffin's search and become intrigued, especially after hearing rumors about the gold beads. Lenny, cocky and competitive, sees Aisha as just a kid playing games and vows to beat her to the prize dot as Aisha and Griffin piece together the map's clues. They realize the beads might not be pirate loot at all, but sacred tribal artifacts hidden long ago to keep them from invaders. Their journey takes them to forgotten parts of the coast-collapsed caves, tidal pools, and an old lighthouse. In one of these places, they uncover a second pouch of beads buried under stones, confirming they're on the right path. But Lenny and Brody aren't far behind. They've been watching as Part 1 ends. The real adventure begins with two teams on a collision course, one seeking truth and legacy, the other chasing fame and fortune. The gold isn't just treasure, it's history waiting to be protected or exploited. Aisha and Griffin's partnership strengthens. They dive deeper into the mystery, now realizing the treasure may not be pirate loot, but a hidden collection of sacred tribal artifacts smuggled away during colonial raids. The gold beads, etched with ancient symbols, are not just valuable, they hold cultural and historical importance. With the map now partially decoded, Aisha and Griffin identify a series of locations marked by natural features like cliffs, tidal formations, and old forest paths that appear to form a trail left by those who originally hid the beads. Meanwhile, Lenny and Brody have become increasingly obsessed with Aisha's movements. They follow her and Griffin from a distance, watching them explore remote areas. Lenny's motivations are driven by ego and greed. He dreams of finding the treasure first and selling it for millions, or at least gaining internet fame through their social media channel. Brody, more reserved, begins to show signs of doubt. especially as they cross ethical boundaries. Griffin and Aisha's search leads them to a dense marshland on the outskirts of town. There, beneath a cluster of twisted trees, they find a buried clay container holding more gold beads, along with a weathered pendant made of fused gold and bronze. Griffin believes the pendant may have ceremonial significance, proof that this treasure was a tribal legacy, not stolen pirate bounty. The designs on the beads match artifacts in the town's small museum, long overlooked and miscategorized as colonial-era decorations. As they prepare to leave the marsh, they realize someone has been following them. Lenny and Brody's footprints are visible near their digging site. Alarmed, Griffin insists they hide the pendant and reroute their search. Aisha worries the rivals could not only steal the treasure, but potentially sell sacred artifacts to black market buyers. Parallel to this, Lenny makes a bold move. While scanning near the cliffs where Aisha had once visited, he finds a metal detector hit another gold bead, this time attached to a bronze chain. Excited, he secretly contacts an online collector who promises a huge payout in exchange for more artifacts. Brody, growing uneasy with their intentions, begins to question whether this is just a treasure hunt or theft. Back at the museum, Aisha and Griffin consult an elderly curator who shares forgotten journal entries from a missionary who once lived among the indigenous tribes. The entries suggest that the tribes foresaw their cultural erasure and deliberately scattered their sacred items in safe locations. Each site was chosen carefully, meant to be discovered by those who respected their history, not plunderers. The deeper Aisha digs into the past, the more personal the search becomes. She starts to suspect her grandfather might have been part of a group trying to preserve the artifacts, not steal them. Perhaps he left her the map as a final piece of that mission. Both parties race toward the next location, an abandoned cave system only visible at low tide. But what neither knows is that someone else is now in town. The mysterious collector Lenny contacted has arrived, and he's not interested in museums-only profit. The stakes have shifted. This is no longer just a race for treasure, it's a fight to protect a buried legacy from being lost forever. The pressure is mounting. Aisha and Griffin have decoded the final clue on the map leading to a hidden cave. System beneath the cliffs, only accessible for a short window during low tide. With the storm forecasted to hit the coast in less than 24 hours, they realize it's now or never. Meanwhile, Lenny and Brody, driven by greed and desperation, are racing toward the same destination, now joined by the mysterious and dangerous collector who has promised them a fortune for the gold artifacts. Aisha prepares carefully, gathering tools, waterproof containers, and ropes. Griffin, though physically strained, is mentally sharper than ever. His guilt about past mistakes, especially keeping an artifact he once found, has pushed him to see this mission through. For him, it's about redemption. For Aisha, it's about honoring her grandfather and protecting history. They reach the cave entrance as the tide begins to retreat. Inside, the cave stretches deep, illuminated only by their flashlights. Strange. Carvings cover the wall's symbols identical to those found on the beads. As they move further in, they discover an incredible sight. Ceremonial jars filled with gold beads, bronze tools, and tribal masks preserved in alcoves carved into the stone. Aisha is in awe. This isn't just treasure, it's a time capsule of a lost culture. But they aren't alone. Lenny, Brody, and the collector arrive. The confrontation is tense. Lenny demands access to the artifacts, claiming finder's rights. The collector, armed and ruthless, threatens violence if they don't hand over the gold. Aisha refuses, standing her ground. She argues that the artifacts belong in a museum, not on the black market. Brody, torn between loyalty and conscience, hesitates. Griffin steps forward and reveals a secret. He once found a similar ceremonial. Item decades ago and kept it hidden, but he has now returned it to the museum anonymously. He tells Lenny that greed only brings loss and that protecting this site is the only honorable thing left to do. Suddenly, a wave crashes deep into the cave. The tide is coming back faster than expected. The storm is arriving early. Rocks begin to shift, water rises, and panic sets in. The group has no choice but to work together to escape. In the chaos, Brody helps Aisha rescue one of the jars while Griffin navigates a safe path out. The collector tries to grab a mask but is swept away by a sudden wave, his fate unclear. Lenny, shaken by the near-death experience and Griffin's words, lets go of his greed. He helps carry Aisha out as the cave begins to flood. They emerge soaked and exhausted, just as the tide swallows the entrance behind them. In the aftermath, Aisha contacts the Museum and Historical Preservation Society. With the evidence retrieved and the map now fully documented, the cave is declared a protected cultural site. The media picks up the story not as a tale of lost treasure, but of a recovered legacy. Griffin finds peace, having finally honored the past he once mishandled. Lenny and Brody, changed by the experience, start a new channel focused on ethical treasure hunting and historical preservation. Aisha becomes a local hero and begins dreaming of becoming an archaeologist. The true treasure wasn't gold, it was truth, honor, and the courage to protect what matters.